They say every secret has a keeper. But here's the twist. Sometimes that keeper isn't a stranger at all. Sometimes it's the person who once knew you best. Before the royal titles, before the endless camera flashes, and long before the speeches about love, charity, and changing the world, Meghan Markle had another story, one she never wanted you, me, or anyone else to hear. A story buried so deep it almost disappeared. Until now, because according to whispers from people close to Trevor Engelson, Meghan's ex-husband, there was one night, one unforgettable party that changed everything. That single night didn't just rattle friendships, it cracked the carefully polished image Meghan had been building. And the wild part, this wasn't after she married Harry. Oh no. This happened long before crowns and palaces, back when Meghan was still circling Toronto's elite scene. And let me tell you, Toronto's elite wasn't like Hollywood. It was quieter, richer, and hidden behind velvet ropes and whispered invitations. It was a world where rules weren't written down. They were whispered in shadows, then broken behind closed doors. And Meghan, she knew how to play that game better than anyone. The night that changed everything, picture this, Toronto, 2016. Meghan wasn't the Duchess yet, she was still the Suits actress. Glamorous, confident, adored, but already mingling with a wealthy crowd that knew how to party behind locked penthouse doors. When Prince Harry flew in to see her that summer, the plan was simple, or so everyone thought. A cozy evening, champagne bubbles, soft laughter echoing through a borrowed penthouse suite. But according to insiders, Meghan wasn't just hosting this get-together, she was arranging it. Every detail. The setting, the guests, the supplies. Yes, those supplies. Then it happened. Something went wrong, very wrong. Meghan, sources say, slipped out mid-party to pick up a few extras. What those extras were, only a handful of people truly know. But the whispers claim they weren't for her alone. They were for Harry. And shockingly, for Princess Eugenie. Suddenly, panic, confusion, a moment that nearly tipped into a full-blown scandal. Police attention was this close. Phones went dark, names vanished, and the whole thing dissolved into silence before the sun came up. No reporters, no leaks, nothing. By morning, the story was gone, completely erased. And that's how this whole saga begins, with a night that never made the papers but could have destroyed everything before it even started. The Soho House era now. Let's talk about the place Meghan practically ruled before the palace ever knew her name. Soho House. For the uninitiated, Soho House wasn't just a club, it was the playground for Toronto's powerful and glamorous. Private memberships, secret guest lists, nights that stretched until sunrise, and in that world, Meghan wasn't just a guest. She was practically royalty already. People who knew her back then describe her as magnetic. She wasn't simply in the room, she owned the room. If certain VIP guests wanted something discreet, something specific, Meghan knew exactly how to get it, and she delivered. We're not talking just cocktails and casual chatter. No, these were marathon nights. Laughter so loud it blurred into chaos. Decisions so reckless they lingered in people's memories like smoke. And here's the kicker. Meghan wasn't simply part of these nights. She was the supplier, the organizer, the trusted hand that kept the wheels spinning. People started whispering that Meghan didn't just attend the party, she was the party. And you know what? That made her powerful. In those circles, being fun wasn't enough. You had to be useful, and Meghan thrived on that control. One insider said she lit up when she commanded a room. She didn't float through conversations aimlessly, she calculated. Who mattered? Who could lift her higher? She always knew. She was sharp, bold, and already a master of reinvention. Enter Trevor Engelson. But wait, long before Harry, before Toronto, before the monarchy even noticed her, there was Trevor Engelson, Meghan's first big love, her Hollywood connection, the man who thought he knew her best. Their wedding in Jamaica looked like a fairy tale. White sand, turquoise waves, rum drifting through the tropical air. But behind the photos, something far more telling was happening. Guests still remember it. Meghan arrived with bags of pre-rolled joints. Not 5, not 20, over 100, neatly rolled, perfectly lined up. A bold statement even in Jamaica where things are relaxed. Back then, people laughed. Oh, Meghan's so quirky, so fun, so wild. But looking back now, it fits the pattern. The same pattern that would later define her Toronto days. She wasn't following the party, she was the party. Trevor adored her energy. He fell hard for that spontaneity, that unpredictable magnetism. But even then, friends noticed her edge. Meghan could be charming in one moment, then oddly distant in the next. She was always watching, always planning. That Jamaican wedding, to outsiders, it was unforgettable. But for Meghan, it was practice. Practice in control, practice in running the show, and practice in rewriting herself for the next stage of her climb. To truly understand Meghan Markle, you have to realize something shocking. She didn't live as one person. She lived as many. She had this uncanny ability to compartmentalize, to split her life into neat little boxes. Each box polished, perfected, and completely separate from the others. There was Meghan, the co-star, witty, friendly, the relatable girl next door that her Suits castmates adored. Then there was Meghan, the Toronto socialite, confident, commanding, and fluent in the unspoken language of elite nightlife. And then there was Meghan, the partner, the softer version she reserved for Harry, the listener, the comforter, the woman who made him feel like finally someone understood him. And the most jaw-dropping part, every version felt real. Real enough that people fell for it, but none of them were complete. One source once put it like this: she could walk out of one life in the morning, slip into another by nightfall, and never miss a beat. It wasn't talent, it was strategy. Meghan's strategy of consistency. See, Meghan had learned early on that the secret to power wasn't honesty, it was consistency. Be believable long enough and people stop asking questions. Even her closest friends admitted they never quite knew where they stood with her. One day she could be warm, bubbly, full of charm. The next she was distant, cold, and untouchable. And if anyone pushed too far, if someone dared to dig into her contradictions, she vanished. Calls unanswered, messages left unread. That was her survival technique. Not confronting the past, but cutting it off before it could follow her. So by the time Meghan crossed paths with Prince Harry, she was already an expert in the art of reinvention. And Harry? Well, he was the perfect target because he was still trying to escape his own past. Harry's chaos meets Meghan's control. Harry wasn't the polished, mature man the palace often tried to portray. He was the rebel royal, the soldier who drank too much, laughed too loudly, and carried a reputation for breaking the rules. The palace could dress him up in suits and send him to charity events, but deep down, Harry was restless, reckless, drawn to danger. And that's exactly where Meghan found him. Insiders claim their spark wasn't born out of fairy tale romance. No glass slippers here. Their connection was built on indulgence. Meghan didn't try to tame Harry. She joined him. She didn't flinch at his wild side. She didn't lecture him. She indulged it. She gave him a safe space to be messy, chaotic, unfiltered, without judgment, without headlines, without royal handlers breathing down his neck. For Harry, that was irresistible. A friend of his once described Meghan as the calm in his storm. But those who knew Meghan before tell a different story. They say it wasn't calm at all. It was control, calculated moves, perfect timing. While Harry was falling deeper, Meghan was calculating her every step. Every gesture, every late-night call, every chance visit was measured, deliberate, precise. Long-distance trips weren't spontaneous, they were perfectly timed. Phone calls weren't casual, they were building blocks. And by the time Harry realized how much he needed her, Meghan had already rewritten her role. No longer just a girlfriend, now a confidant. And soon after, not just a confidant, but a savior. That was Meghan's genius. She didn't just enter Harry's world, she became the only part of it that felt real, erasing Toronto. And while Harry was falling head over heels, Meghan was busy scrubbing away the Toronto chapter of her life. The whispers, the wild nights, the Soho House stories, they had to vanish. And vanish they did. After that infamous 2016 party, the night that nearly tipped into scandal, Toronto went silent. Phone records? Gone. Hotel staff? Tight-lipped. Gossip circles? Mysteriously quiet. It was as if the city itself had been told to forget. Why? Because the palace was already preparing Meghan's royal image. They couldn't risk even a sliver of scandal leaking out. Not one whisper about reckless nights or questionable supplies could surface. So, the cleanup began. Some insiders swear people were pressured into silence. Others hint at quiet payouts. And the rest? They were simply erased. Unfollowed, blocked, cut out of the narrative completely. By the time Meghan officially stepped into the spotlight as Harry's fiancée, her past was spotless. No trace of the Toronto socialite who once ran the room, no whispers of the Soho House queen. The public saw only the Duchess-to-be. But behind palace doors, insiders knew better. They knew how much had been buried and how fast. If there's one thing Meghan Markle perfected, it's this. Every time she rises, she erases. Think about it. When she walked away from Hollywood, her closest friends slowly disappeared. When she left Toronto, the entire circle that once orbited her, quiet, silent, erased as if they had never existed. And when she walked out of the palace, even her in-laws, the most famous family in the world, became strangers overnight. This isn't coincidence, it's strategy. Meghan doesn't just end chapters, she deletes them. One source described it perfectly. When Meghan's done with a world, she makes sure there's no way back. No trail, no door to knock on. And that's where the haunting question creeps in. When you live so many versions of yourself, do you eventually lose track of the real one? Meghan's story reads like a fairy tale. Hollywood actress to Duchess to global brand. But if you peel back back the glitter, what you see isn't a love story. It's a blueprint, a carefully designed plan for transformation. She became whoever the moment demanded. On the beach in Jamaica, she was the carefree bride, joints in hand, dancing in the sand. In Toronto, she was the queen of Soho House, the trusted fixer who always delivered. With Harry, she was the calm, the savior, the woman who soothed his storms. And with the world, she was the duchess who smiled, waved, and spoke about compassion. Each version believable. Each version temporary. Each version replaced when the time was right. Trevor Engelson saw it first. And here's where Trevor comes back in. He saw it before anyone else. Long before Harry, long before the world put Meghan on magazine covers, Trevor glimpsed the real pattern. At first, he thought she was spontaneous, magnetic, untamed, but slowly, the cracks showed. He realized Meghan wasn't just rolling joints for fun. She was rehearsing control. She wasn't just charming guests, she was calculating who mattered most. Trevor knew her when she was still climbing, still learning how to sharpen her reinvention skills. And maybe that's why his voice, his proof, is so dangerous now. Because unlike everyone else, Trevor doesn't just know a version of Meghan, he knows the blueprint. Harry fell for the blueprint. Prince Harry, on the other hand, walked right into the perfected version. By the time he met Meghan, she had already mastered her strategy. She knew exactly how to make herself irresistible to him. She didn't fight his chaos, she comforted it. She didn't try to change him, she mirrored him. And slowly, he believed that she was the one person in the world who truly saw him. Believed that without her, he'd crumble back into scandal, loneliness, and the royal machine. That belief gave Meghan power, and she knew how to use it. The palace cleanup. But don't forget, the palace isn't blind. They saw the risk. They knew Meghan's past in Toronto was messy. They knew whispers about that one scandalous night in 2016 could explode into headlines that would scorch the monarchy. So they moved fast. Phone records erased, staff silenced, gossip circles shut down. Toronto itself seemed to forget, and Meghan walked out of the flames untouched, her past neatly buried under palace silence. But silence isn't the same as forgetting, and Trevor Engelson's quiet proof, his memories, his experience, they linger like smoke waiting for the spark.